Ever find yourself stuck in that confusing in-between, where he says he cares, shows up sometimes, maybe even introduces you to his friends, but the minute you mention anything about where this is going, he tenses up? He's warm, then distant, present, then vague, and you're left wondering, is he just taking his time? Or is he just not ready for what I'm ready for? You're not overthinking, you're asking the right question. Because liking someone and being ready for a relationship? Two completely different things. One is chemistry, the other is emotional capacity. And if you've ever found yourself second-guessing what his signals mean, you're not alone. In this video, we're not going to decode texts or guess his intentions. We're diving into the real psychological signs that reveal whether a man is truly ready for commitment, or if he's just enjoying the connection without stepping into the responsibility of partnership. If you've ever felt stuck between hope and hesitation, this is the clarity you've been craving. Let's talk about what readiness really looks like, and how to finally stop settling for potential when what you want is presence. Welcome back to PsychBytes, where we decode the emotional and psychological layers of love, dating, and everything in between. And today, we're unpacking a question that's probably been circling in your head longer than you care to admit. Maybe he pulls back. Maybe he gives vague answers. Maybe he says he wants to go with the flow, or see where things go. You find yourself wondering, is he just scared? Has he been hurt before? Or is he simply not ready for what I'm ready for? Here's the thing no one tells you when you're trying to figure someone out. There's a big difference between liking someone and being ready for a relationship. A lot of people like you. They enjoy you. They're attracted to you. But that doesn't automatically mean they're emotionally available, let alone prepared for the commitment and consistency a real relationship requires. Being ready isn't about chemistry. It's not about how fun the dates are or how often he texts "good morning." Readiness lives deeper, in the emotional architecture of a person. It's about his ability to hold space for someone else, to regulate his own triggers, to communicate when it's uncomfortable, to make room in his life, not just for love, but for partnership. And that's where things get confusing, because we're told to listen to our hearts, to trust the vibes. But real clarity comes not just from what someone says, but from the psychological patterns behind what they do. In this video, we're not going to read into vague texts or dissect emojis. We're going to dive into the science of readiness, emotional maturity, attachment cues, and behavioral consistency, so you can finally understand if he's just uncertain or emotionally unavailable. Because here's the truth. You don't need to beg someone to be ready. You just need to know how to recognize when they are. Let's talk about what being ready actually means, because most people assume it's just about timing, as if someone wakes up one day and says, "Okay, I'm ready to love someone now." But relationship readiness isn't a switch. It's a pattern, a mindset, a level of emotional development. And psychology gives us clear signs to look for. At its core, relationship readiness is about emotional maturity. Not perfection, not having it all figured out, but being able to regulate your own emotions, take accountability, and function in a relationship that involves not just you, but another person's needs too. One of the key frameworks that helps us understand this is attachment theory. Developed by psychologist John Bowlby and expanded by Mary Ainsworth, attachment theory categorizes how people emotionally bond into four main styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. Now, here's why that matters. People with a secure attachment style tend to be emotionally available, communicative, and comfortable with both intimacy and independence. They're not afraid to talk about the future. They don't ghost when things get deep. They lean in. But people with avoidant or anxious attachment patterns, they may like you deeply, but they're also navigating fears. Avoidants fear losing freedom. Intimacy can feel suffocating. Anxious types may crave closeness, but panic when it actually happens, causing push-pull dynamics. So when you're trying to assess whether he's ready, look past the surface. It's not about how much he texts or how intense the chemistry feels. It's about how emotionally available he is when it counts, especially during conflict, vulnerability, or uncertainty. Readiness also includes a person's life stage and emotional bandwidth. Someone going through personal upheaval, career stress, healing from a breakup, unresolved trauma, might want love but be fundamentally incapable of showing up for it right now. And here's the part that's hardest to accept. Someone can be a good person and still not be ready. That's why, next up, we're going to explore the subtle psychological cues that reveal when someone's not actually prepared for a relationship, even if they say they are. Because when you understand the psychology of readiness, you stop chasing mixed signals and start trusting what's real. Sometimes it starts with the way he dodges certain conversations. You open up about your past, your fears, your hopes, and you're met with a silence that isn't comforting, or a quick change of subject that feels like a missed moment. He might listen, nod, even offer a half smile. But when it's his turn to share, he stays on the surface. Vulnerability makes him uneasy, and not because he doesn't care about you, he might care deeply, but because intimacy feels unsafe to him. Real emotional connection requires someone to confront their own inner world, and if he's not ready to go there with himself, he's definitely not ready to go there with you. So he keeps things light, even when the moment calls for more. And that resistance, over time, creates distance that no amount of chemistry can close. That emotional distance shows up not just in words, but in how the relationship is defined, or, more often, how it's not. You've been seeing each other for weeks, maybe months, but the labels never come. He tells you he likes where things are, or doesn't want to rush. You're not officially anything, yet you're emotionally involved. It's an undefined limbo that starts to hurt more than it excites. And here's the thing, keeping things vague gives him freedom without responsibility. It's a psychological buffer that keeps him from having to show up in a real way. If things go wrong, there's always that built-in exit. We never said it was serious. When someone avoids naming the relationship, it's often because they aren't emotionally ready to step fully into one. And if you look closely at his lifestyle, it might already be telling you the story. His time is filled to the brim. Work, side projects, friends, travel, maybe even healing from a past relationship. There's no real space carved out for a partnership, not because he's too busy, but because he's made choices that reflect his emotional priorities. We make time for what we value, and if he's not making time for you in a way that shows care and consistency, it's not about scheduling. It's about emotional availability. Being ready for a relationship means not just being open to love, but having the space to nurture it. If everything else takes precedence, it's a subtle sign that he isn't quite there yet. And here's another thing that stings. He says he values his freedom more than connection. Maybe not in those words, but in the way he reacts to anything that feels like commitment. Even simple things, planning next weekend, introducing you to friends, can cause him to pull away. It's as if any emotional tether feels like a trap. And while independence is beautiful and necessary in healthy relationships, hyper-independence can signal fear. Specifically, fear of losing control, fear of being vulnerable, fear of being hurt again. When someone guards their autonomy so tightly they can't let anyone in, it's often because they see love as a risk, not a reward. And love can't grow where it's always being held at arm's length. But perhaps the clearest sign of all is this. When things start to feel really good, intimate, connected, peaceful, he pulls back. Maybe he disappears for a few days. Maybe he picks a random fight. Maybe he turns into someone you don't recognize right after a night of closeness. This pattern is called self-sabotage, and it's rooted in emotional avoidance and unresolved trauma. For some people, closeness activates old fear pathways. The brain associates intimacy with eventual pain, so it creates distance to prevent the fall. It's not about you doing something wrong. It's about him trying to outrun a feeling he never learned to sit with. And until he chooses to face that wound, he will keep running, even from something that feels safe and good. Now let's talk about the flip side. How about the signs which start to show when someone is ready for a deep and meaningful relationship? Well, here we go. There's something powerful about a man who communicates, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. You bring up something uncomfortable, and instead of shutting down, brushing it off, or making you feel like the dramatic one, he leans in. He listens. He stays present. And he responds with honesty, not defensiveness. That's not just a green flag. It's emotional maturity. Research in emotional regulation and interpersonal neurobiology shows that the ability to stay connected during stress or conflict is one of the strongest predictors of long-term relationship satisfaction. A man who is ready won't ghost when the conversation gets deep. He won't run when your needs make him uncomfortable. Instead, he'll hold space, even if he doesn't have all the answers. That clear, consistent communication, that's not luck. That's someone who's done the inner work. And it's someone who sees relationships as a safe space, not a battlefield. It's not just about showing up physically. He also shows up emotionally. This is the difference between someone who's around and someone who's present. He doesn't just ask how your day was. He actually listens. He remembers details. He notices when your mood shifts. And when you're struggling, he doesn't retreat. He checks in, offers comfort. This kind of presence comes from a place of emotional intelligence, what psychologist Daniel Goleman calls the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions in both yourself and others. A man who's emotionally available will let you see his own emotions too. He won't pretend to be unshakable. He'll let you in, gradually, yes, but genuinely. Emotional presence is intimacy in action. When he's there not just in body, but in heart and mind, that's someone who's truly showing up. And here's something that often gets overlooked but matters more than almost anything. He includes you in his future. You don't have to guess where you stand. When he talks about where he's headed, career, family, life goals, you're in the picture. He makes plans with you in mind, not just around you. He checks in about how his decisions affect your life. This isn't about moving too fast or pushing commitment prematurely. It's about consideration. It's about seeing love not as an add-on, but as something to be protected, prioritized, and included. Studies in relationship psychology have shown that commitment is less about promises and more about behavior, especially how much a partner integrates the other person into their long-term vision. If he's thinking long-term and you're a part of that story, that's a powerful sign he's ready to build, not just date. Then there's the way he holds himself accountable. He doesn't shift blame every time something goes wrong. He doesn't make you feel crazy for expressing how you feel. Instead, he reflects. He owns his missteps. And most importantly, he works on them. That level of self-awareness is rare, and it's one of the clearest indicators of relational health. According to psychologist Dr. Brené Brown, the ability to sit with discomfort, admit mistakes, and make amends is what separates people who connect deeply from those who sabotage intimacy. If he can say, "I see what I did, and I want to do better," he's not just mature, he's emotionally safe. He's not trying to be perfect, he's trying to grow. And that's someone who can be trusted with your vulnerability. Last but never least, he doesn't need to control everything. He's not trying to dictate the pace of the relationship or dominate decision-making. Instead, he's open to collaboration. He wants to build something with you, not just have something go his way. That willingness to grow together, rather than cling to control, is one of the healthiest relationship dynamics you can have. Research on power dynamics in relationships shows that equitable partnerships, where both people have agency, voice, and emotional influence, are far more stable and fulfilling over time. If he invites your perspective, adjusts when needed, and shows that he values your input as much as his own, that's not weakness. That's strength. That's readiness. Love isn't about one person steering the ship. It's about learning to row in rhythm with someone else. And if he's already rowing beside you, not ahead of you, not dragging you behind, but right next to you, then you're not chasing potential. You're witnessing presence, and that's the real deal. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, so he's not perfect, but does that mean he's not ready? And that's a fair question. No one is perfect. No one shows up to a relationship with every emotional tool polished, every past wound neatly healed. But there's a big difference between someone who's imperfect and growing with you and someone who's unavailable and stalling your growth. That difference is what this entire conversation is really about. Why does this matter? Because time is emotional currency, and if you're constantly investing it in someone who isn't emotionally ready, that emotional debt starts to feel like self-betrayal. We live in a culture that romanticizes potential. We're taught to look for the spark, the butterflies, the signs he's just scared or healing or needs more time. But here's a hard truth wrapped in compassion. If someone isn't ready for a relationship, no amount of love will make them ready. It's not your job to fix, to wait, to nurture him into emotional maturity. It's not your responsibility to play therapist, coach, or emotional translator for someone who hasn't done their own inner work. Because love isn't built on potential, it's built on presence. And someone who is emotionally ready doesn't just say they care. They act in ways that protect, grow, and nurture the connection between you. Psychologically speaking, readiness is about 3 things: self-awareness, consistency, and reciprocity. If those aren't present, it's not a relationship. It's a projection. You're projecting the version of him you hope he'll become, rather than accepting the man who's right in front of you. And what does that do to your emotional health? It keeps you in a holding pattern. It chips away at your self-worth. It teaches you to accept crumbs and call it intimacy. That's why this isn't just about identifying if he's ready. It's about honoring whether you are ready to stop negotiating your standards for the possibility of love. Because when you finally reach that emotional turning point, and so many of us do, you start to realize something liberating. You don't have to beg for emotional presence. You don't have to decode someone's hot and cold behavior. You don't have to chase clarity. You deserve someone who is already choosing clarity. Someone who is capable of choosing you. Not because they're infatuated, not because they're lonely, but because they're emotionally grounded, relationally mature, and ready to co-create something with depth and meaning. When someone is ready, you feel it. Not in the rush, but in the calm. Not in the chase, but in the reliability. It doesn't feel like a guessing game. It feels like a slow, steady unfolding. Like 2 people arriving at the same page, at the same time, without force. And that kind of love doesn't just happen. It's chosen. It's nurtured by 2 people who are emotionally available to themselves first, and each other second. So if you're sitting in that space where you're unsure whether he's ready, take a step back, not just to assess him, but to reconnect with yourself. What are your emotional needs? What are your relationship standards? What kind of love are you actually available for? Because clarity isn't always about them. It often starts with you. And once you stop chasing someone else's readiness, you create space for someone who doesn't have to be convinced to love you well. They just do. So let's take a deep breath for a second. Because if you've made it this far, I know something about you. You care deeply. You're not looking for games or temporary flings. You're ready for real love, steady, soulful, rooted love. And that means you're also brave enough to ask hard questions, even when the answers might sting a little. The truth is, wondering whether someone is ready for a relationship can feel like emotional limbo. You replay conversations in your head. You try to make sense of mixed signals. You tell yourself, maybe he's just scared. Maybe I just need to be patient. Maybe I'm asking too much. But you're not asking too much. You're asking for alignment. You're asking for someone who knows how to show up, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. You're asking for emotional partnership, not just proximity. And you're allowed to want that. The biggest shift happens when you stop focusing on whether someone likes you and start asking whether they're actually capable of loving you in the way you need. Because the presence of attraction doesn't always mean the presence of emotional readiness. And when you try to build a relationship on chemistry alone, you often end up doing all the emotional labor yourself. So let's end with a question. Have you ever found yourself waiting for someone to be ready, hoping they'd grow into the relationship you needed? What did it teach you? Drop your story in the comments. I genuinely want to hear what that experience felt like for you. Your insight could be exactly what someone else needs to read right now. And if this video resonated with you, if you've been in that space of wondering whether his distance is about timing or something deeper, you'll want to check out our video on 5 signs that reveal whether he is emotionally available in a relationship. Because sometimes it's not that he's not ready, it's that his heart just isn't open in the way you need it to be. Click to watch next, and let's keep this conversation going. You deserve clarity, you deserve peace, and most importantly, you deserve someone who's ready to love you right now. Don't forget to subscribe to PsychBytes for more insights into psychology, relationships, and emotional availability. See you in the next one.